Hi, I'm Janet. I'm here in the ADORNit studio today to share a fun sewing project with you. We call this our Bloom Tabletopper. Looks like this. We used our Crazy for Daisy line of fabric to make this. And this is the Sunshine colorway, these yummy yellows and grays that we thought was perfect for this project. And you're going to be so impressed at how easy this project is, even if you don't sew. If you can just sew a straight line, you can pretty much make this project. It goes together really easy. And there's not a lot of calculating involved. I don't do math if I can avoid it. And so I'll show you just how easy this works out, and you don't have to do a ton of measuring. The first thing you need to do is choose what you're going to do for your center. The center of this is an 8x8 square, and I chose from the line of fabric. This is kind of fun. We did for this line of fabric, one of the fabrics is called a cheater print, and it has all these different sections on it that you can cut apart and use in your quilts, or you can just use this as a quilt top itself and just stitch around the individual sections. That's why they call it a cheater print. It looks like you pieced it together, but you really didn't. You cheated. But this is my favorite. There's lots of options for the center of this tabletopper on this cheater print. This is my favorite one, and so that's the one that I chose to use. And all I did was just cut it out carefully around the edges. You could leave, you could extend into the next section, maybe a 1/4 inch, to give yourself that 1/4 inch seam allowance on this. I wasn't too worried about it, so I'm not going to. All right, there's my centerpiece. And then for all of your strips around the side, I wanted my strips to be 2 inches wide. So if you include a 1/4 inch seam allowance on either side, you need to add a 1/2 inch to your strips. So and for this whole tabletopper, I just cut 2.5 inch strips of each fabric that I used. 2.5 inches by the width of the fabric. So if you lay your fabric out, and just cut 2.5 inches all the way, the whole width of the fabric. And do that for each of the 4 fabrics that you're going to use for your tabletopper. And that's it. That's all the cutting you have to do, basically, except for some trimming. So I've got the rest of my strips here, and I'll show you how easy this is to put together. So I decided to have my design be 1 fabric on the top and on the right side of the square, and a coordinating fabric on the bottom and on the left side of the square. And then as I built out, I did the same thing. So the same fabric here and here, and then a different fabric here and here. So we'll start with this little yellow print, and rather than have to measure and say, cut your strip X amount of inches wide, all I did was trim off the selvage. Then lay the fabric along It's going to be along the top, but we'll pretend it's the top. So that's how you measure. Trim it off. Just give yourself a 1/4 inch, a 1/2 inch extra, and then take and sew it. Lay them right sides together and sew it together. With just a 1/4 inch seam. This project works up in an afternoon, which is my favorite kind of project. I don't have hours and hours of uninterrupted time to sew. Okay, so once you get it sewed on, then you'll want to press, and all I would do is press all the seams the same direction. So this one's tending to want to lay up, so go to your ironing board and press it one way or the other. And then just take your cutter and trim that piece that you just sewed on even, and do it on both sides. So just lay it along the edge of the square and then trim the strip off even. Okay, now for the next one, again, no measuring. Just take your strip that you've been using, lay it on to get the approximate measurement, give yourself a little bit extra, take it to your sewing machine and sew it on. We'll do just this one more, and then I'll show you what it looks like when you've gone a little farther. Oops. Okay, so then you'd press again and then just trim. So there's a little bit of waste, but not a ton, which I can live with. Not a ton of waste, but I can live with a little bit. So that's what it looks like. There you can see the beginning part. I have a sample here where I've sewed a few more. You just continue in that manner. So for the next piece, you'd use this strip of fabric, or whichever you chose to do, and add it the same way. Lay it on to find your length, trim it off, sew it on, press it open. And on this piece, you can see I've added these two pieces, and then I've continued on and added this gray piece up here. And then my next step would be to add it down this side as well, just like that. Trim it off, sew it on, open it up, and then we'd move on to the next gray strip, which would be this one. And you just keep, it just builds on itself, just like that, until you have it as large as you want it to be. It could be bigger than this easily if you had enough fabric strips. Just keep going. If it got big enough, you may have to piece your strips together somewhere in the middle to get the length, but that's fine too. So it could be a full-size quilt if you wanted it to. You could do it a little bigger and have it be a wall hanging, or just do this size. If you have a little table, you could even do it smaller. You could also change the width of your strips too, and that would change the size of your finished project. So you can see how easily this goes together. It's just really low stress, easy sewing, and a fun little project. It would make a really cute gift. And then I had this one professionally quilted, but you wouldn't have to. You could easily quilt this on your sewing machine. Just do straight lines or a chevron zigzag line in each strip. There's all kinds of ways that you could finish this and then just bind it like a regular quilt. So thanks for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed this. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We wouldn't want you to miss any of the fun project tutorials that we have all the time, new ones coming up all the time. So thanks so much.